Bucket! Bam! Huge jump shot, 69-6. Brooks drives baseline, tight ropes, kicks it. Bucket! Bam! Huge jump shot, 69-6. Brooks drives baseline, tight ropes.
There it was yesterday. It's probably the biggest shot of the game for the Wolverines as they take down Ohio State. Welcome in. It's Afternoon Live. Dennis Fithian with you here as we'll talk little hoops as we get into what's going on with the Wolverines like we do every day at 1 o'clock. Today being no different. We'll cover the Wolverines from head to toe. Part of the Maize and Blue review. Thanks for joining us here, whether you're on the podcast or watching it live. If you are watching it live, you can go ahead and put a message up, comments, and we'll handle it as they come in during the show. We're good like that. So go ahead, fire away your comments. We'll take those from you. And let me just X that out. For some reason, I'm hearing a little bit of an echo. And there's another X out. Boom. Shut that one down. Now we're good to go. All right. How's everybody doing out there? It was it a relief? A lot of just drama. I would say an emotional Sunday if you're a Michigan fan. Now heading into a game where I felt like Michigan had to win. And they're on the road. They already lost to Ohio State. And Michigan was, a 4-point underdog. So it wasn't a 50-50 shot. It was less than that. And then you hear minutes before tip-off, a little bit earlier than that, if you're a member of the Maize and Blue Review, that Hunter Dickinson is not going to be available for Michigan because of a stomach bug. And that's just a big-time deflator. So whatever the odds were, however you felt, I didn't change much on the betting line. Whatever you felt, though, watching that game went from, Michigan's with a chance here, 55, 60, or 45% chance of winning that game with Hunter Dickinson. When you hear that news, you just slump down and you think, I don't know, what do they got? 20% chance, 25% chance now? And then you watch the first half where Michigan's down 9 at one point, and then they're down 7 at the break. And that chance of whatever you felt, 20%, felt like maybe about the same thing, maybe a little less than that. But then the second half came around and Michigan, with no Hunter Dickinson and down 7 at the half, comes out there and DeVante Jones, Michigan's point guard, who didn't get off to a great start this year, had a lot of people let's just face it, Michigan came into this year. I thought that they deserved to be the preseason Big Ten favorite. I thought the ceiling was the championship for U of M this year. People want to talk about the Final Four. I was right there. I wasn't telling people, let's wait. Let's go. After last year and getting Hunter Dickinson back, heading into the year, what they're adding, it was all there. And then, Michigan as a top 6 preseason, ended up getting up to 4. They fell out of the top 25, tumbled. And part of that, people looked at DeVante Jones, myself included. Here's the player of the year coming in from the Sun Belt after the way Mike Smith hit the ground running. And, we know there are a lot of other players around. It was a different team. Michigan lost a lot. We've been talking about that all year long. But, Jones was part of, it's a disappointing team through the first quarter of the season, through the first half of the season. And then Jones started playing a little bit better here in the second half of the season. And in the last quarter of the season, he started playing way better, where he was Michigan's second best player in most games. And then yesterday, with Hunter Dickinson out, he steps forward and he puts together a superstar performance and leads Michigan with 21 points and 9 assists. And it was an amazing performance, considering that Michigan needed to win it to get into the NCAA tournament. Considering they didn't have Hunter Dickinson, their leading scorer and rebounder, and watching Jones not only knock in some shots, but drive the lane with no Dickinson in there, using that pick and roll, sometimes just blowing by guys, taking it to the hole, getting some contact, making some layups, and then if they started paying too much attention to him, he'd dish it over for a dunk from to Musa Diabate. Fabulous performance. DeVante Jones, a game that you talk about. You sometimes you say forever, but for years, talking about it right now. And what it does here is, if you're a Michigan fan and you're a basketball fan, it does a lot of things. Number one, it gets Michigan into the tournament. And over the next 2 weeks, if you're a basketball fan, you love the Big Ten tournament and you love the NCAA tournament. Well, Michigan's going to be there in the brackets. They're there. They clinched that yesterday. So they'll be there Thursday against Indiana at 11:30. They will be there in whether it's going to be on St. Patrick's Day or the day after, that first Thursday or Friday, they will be in the NCAA tournament. On Selection Sunday, their name will flash across the screen and they'll be somewhere in the NCAA tournament. So they're in over the next 2 weeks. And if you're a Hoops fan, you just love that. And then if you're a Michigan fan and a Hoops fan, you take the season where it was a disappointment. And, I said midway through, I just don't think this team's going to be an NCAA tournament team. They're just not getting enough from all the different players here. You can start with the older guys, you start with the younger guys, wherever you wanted to go. They weren't getting enough. I didn't think they were going to get in there, but they clearly they've turned things around and they are in. And so if you're a Michigan fan, getting into the tournament after the midway point, this has been, it was going to be you want to call it a failure? I think it's accurate. If Michigan did not get into the NCAA tournament this year, that would have been a failure of the season. You want to just call it a disappointment, that's fine, but it would have been a failure. A failure for Juwan Howard, a failure for Michigan. And then considering the way Juwan Howard went out, this was going to be a big-time failure. Not that Juwan Howard should have been fired for what happened against Wisconsin. Not that Juwan Howard would have been fired if Michigan didn't get into the tournament. But certainly there have been questions raised. Wow, look at this team that was put together after his first 2 years. Look at this, and look at the way they went out. Now you can take all that and throw it over here because they're in, and Juwan Howard's coming back. So those are big things. So you went from a pass-fail to you passed. You got into the NCAA tournament. And if you want to just say, considering the preseason expectations, that it's a failure, you can do that. And I understand, and there's a point to that. But also, you understand, like Wisconsin, who won the league, tied the league with Illinois, they were picked to finish 7th or 8th in the preseason. And here they did win it. So, yeah, if you just base things, and so there's a little bit of that. Yeah, it was a little bit of disappointment, that it had to come down to the final Sunday. But it's not like they went on some kind of tear and you thought, oh yeah, man, this team is totally legit. And then they fell off. They pretty much fell off right away. They went out and they lost to Seton Hall in a 1-possession game. They went out to that Vegas tournament, and Arizona's a really good team. They don't have much experience, but they're a top 5 team, and the Cats blew them off the floor. And, Minnesota did what they did. And, you go through it, all of it. Central Florida. Michigan went from the mountaintop, or however you'd say it, the penthouse to the outhouse pretty quick. And it didn't look like this team was going to make it. So all in all, it's good. And you should feel good about where Michigan is at right now, that they are into the tournament. It is an accomplishment. And that's fantastic news here. They also get Juwan Howard back, and Phil Martelli in the 5 games needed to go out there and did what he needed to do. Won 3 of those games to get Michigan into the tournament. Martelli looks good. Sadie Washington looks good. Howard Isley looks good. The assistants, Martelli couldn't stop singing those guys' praises. I'm with them. Great job. By Isley and Washington. And now that Michigan has a chance here in the tournament, yeah, they're an 8 seed. And you know what? And normally, when you look back, I was looking today all the way back to Michigan in the 97-98 season. Michigan won the first one. When you get into the tournament, usually the top 3 seeds win it. I was writing down the numbers there come up, and maybe I'll put it up on the screen. But 9 times since the 97-98 season, the 1 seed has won it. 8 times the 2 seed has won it, and 2 times the 3 seed. The rest, 4 through 8, there's only been 4 winners since 97. Michigan in 98 was a 4 seed. Michigan back in 18 was a 5 seed, and then Michigan in 17. I think that was the plane skidding off the runway team that Michigan won it as an 8 seed. Not too many others. And in fact, only one, Iowa, as a 6 seed. So usually the high seeds, even when you say it's anybody's game and lower seeds make a run, all those things, can be true. But normally it's the top 3 seeds, at least since this one has started. And if you think about it for a second, Juwan Howard has never coached in a tournament, in the Big Ten tournament. They were ready 3 years ago to play. In fact, I think they were there and were they suited up and ready to go. I pulled them off the floor and it didn't happen. That was however you say the first day of the pandemic or whatever else. The night before did seem like it was the first day of the pandemic. I can remember working and watching. I was doing some sports updates, and you remember, you had the Rudy Gobert incident, and with Utah, it was like, whoa, Rudy Gobert just tested positive, and then Fred Hoiberg was the coach of Nebraska, so the Cornhuskers were in the Big Ten tournament, and it was the first round, and they cut to this game, and the announcers are like, Fred Hoiberg is taken ill during the game. Like he's slumped over and they're showing him and he looks, white as a ghost. And for a couple seconds, you're like, wait a second. I thought it took a little while for all this time, but that felt like the first day sports wise it was. And the next day they canceled everything. And yeah, Michigan under Juwan Howard, to get back to the original point here, they have never played in the Big Ten tournament, let alone the NCAA tournament. And here they are. That first year they played in the last year. I'm sorry. They did play last year and they got bounced by Ohio State. I should be able to go back now that I'm thinking about it. The first year they did, and the second year they did. Third year, here it came in. They did play. I don't know if somebody got me and caught me on the no, nobody caught me on that. They did, because last year they lost to Ohio State. Remember, they had Mike Smith, I'm remembering now, had the step back, and Ohio State beat them. And then, actually they did go to the NCAA tournament. It was a great run. They came within an eyelash of being able to get to the Final Four, which was fantastic, which is why so many people, myself included, thought that this year was going to be fantastic. So here we are. And let me go through some of I guess I misspoke there. Let's go through some of the feedback already. LTM talking about beat Ohio and MSU. Let's make some noise. Yeah, Martelli was able to do that. Wait, are we in the Big Ten tournament or the field of 64? Field of 68 now? You can call it 64. Yeah, they're in. They punched their ticket yesterday. Michigan was on the bubble. They needed to get that victory. And going down and winning on the road at Ohio State did it. Even if Michigan loses on Thursday afternoon to Indiana, they are still going to be in the NCAA tournament. Not that you want them to lose on Thursday. In fact, you love seeing them get to the weekend. There's nothing, there's few things better in life as a basketball fan. I just remember you talked about the 17 and 18 teams. Those teams getting in and making a run. It'd be a great weekend. If Michigan goes out there and wins Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it almost feels like it is the NCAA tournament. It's that awesome. So yeah, they're in. And it was only a little while ago that people were talking about the NIT. And you're right. That's the way it looked. To be for most of this year, there was a part about it, or for a little while. Didn't even look like they'd make the NIT. Maybe they'd be making the .com tournament if they still have that one. I'm not sure if that one's back or not, but a lot of people were talking NIT, and that's what I thought. Even yesterday, Up to yesterday, you might have still been thinking about the NIT. It was there. It was hanging in the balance. Life on the bubble here for Michigan as they would win one, lose one, win one, lose one. And then it looked like with no Hunter Dickinson, like, here comes the NIT. The nobody's interested tournament. But that all changed yesterday. There's a bot coming in. I'm not really sure. Be safe out there. Whatever that's going on. So it was an exciting day. Let's look at yesterday a little bit. I put down some notes for you to talk about here. And Michigan did not have Hunter Dickinson, and they still end up winning this game, even though they were down 7 at the half. And DeVante Jones was incredible with 21 points and 9 assists. Kobe Buffkin hit that 3 ball. If you watch that game and you remember it, Jones was playing great, and the last bucket that he scored, he went up and he got hit, and he went to the ground. And I didn't have a great camera view of it. Nobody did. It looked like maybe he banged his head a little bit, but enough where he's laying on the floor. And they cut to a commercial, and then they come back, and they got to take Jones out. The player that came in for DeVante Jones when he scored that layup and hit his head was Kobe Buffkin. And Kobe Buffkin, who did not score in this game other than hitting that 3-pointer, was Buffkin knocking that one down. Eli Brooks found him, and Buffkin hit the biggest shot. Like, if Buffkin doesn't make that shot, it's a 4-point game with over a minute to go. That's how big it was. Awesome job by Buffkin there. Also, while we're talking about awesome, Terrence Williams II. Since coming back from that suspension, Michigan has played 4 games. And Williams, in those 4 games, look at his streak now. You might have just said, like, the first game, he scored a bucket or 2 and didn't play that much. But, he hit those 3 threes against Michigan State, and he was pretty good from the field against Iowa. But just look at him now. In these last 4 games, 11 of 16 from the field, and that includes 6 of 7 from downtown. That's good for anybody. And he had 17 points yesterday afternoon for U of M. And I love Terrence Williams. He plays with a flair. When I watch him shoot, I don't think pure shooter, knockdown shooter. Maybe he could be a scorer, doing different things, and they did even run some plays for him late. He tried some clear out, they cleared it out, and he put on some moves and drove to the lane. When he shoots his 3, it's a little bit of kind of a side shot. Doesn't look like the purest thing, but who cares? 6 of 7, he's got it going here, there. But getting something from the bench is not something that Michigan was able to get all year long. They weren't getting anything from the bench, and then here they are in the biggest game, getting Terrence Williams coming up with 17. That was huge. Michigan's defensive game plan for Ohio State, and the Buckeyes were shorthanded. They didn't have a player heading in, then they lost 2 during the game. That's big for them. What are you going to do? Michigan didn't have their best player. So whether you want to say that evens out, you just got to go with who's out there. But fantastic defense by U of M, who gets a season-high 11 steals. And they also were perfect from the free throw line, 11 for 11. Yeah, I'm going to say that's pretty good. Perfect from the free throw line, 11 steals, and being able to close out the game. Buffkin hit that 3. Michigan still needed to walk up there and hit some free throws as well. And Buffkin didn't do a whole heck of a lot in that game, but then he hit the big shot. Diabate had a big block late. Brandon Johns Jr. came up, whether it was a block or a big rebound late. These guys contributing, even Caleb Houston, who did nothing in the scoring department. It was over. He had a big steal late in that game. So Michigan now has to feel pretty good about themselves as they make their way to Indianapolis for that Thursday matinee against the Indiana Hoosiers. And Indiana's disappointing. Indiana's disappointed they'll have to go on a run. They had a shot against Purdue over the weekend and came up short. So they will play. Talking about Mike Woodson's team, the Hoosiers will play like their NCAA tournament lives depend on it, because they do. Like, Indiana is out. They have to have a win. It is a must win for Indiana. So Michigan will have to face that against IU. If there is going to be one disappointing aspect, there's always going to be something, and it's this. As we take a look at the bracket, put myself in there. See Michigan, those first round games, but because of Wisconsin losing to Nebraska, it was going to be Michigan just beating Indiana that next game. They would have played whiskey, which is what everybody wanted to see. And we are not going to see that unless Michigan beats Indiana and then beats Illinois. Then that would be on a Saturday. Now it would even make it even better if Michigan can get by Indiana and by Illinois. Then they would take on the Wisconsin Badgers. If, whiskey's down here in the bottom half. Take it back. I've got 2 strikes during this show already. I just take a look at the bracket. Whiskey, that 2 drops them down there. So that's not happening. So Michigan would have to, let's say, beat Indiana. If the seeds hold, beat Illinois. And if the seeds hold there, it would be Rutgers, Iowa. Michigan could top Rutgers. They split with them during the year. And then it would be championship game against Wisconsin if those seeds held up and Michigan was able to get the upset over Illinois and Rutgers. An 8-seeded Michigan team taking on the 2-seed whiskey. That would be good. And you do get upsets. I was looking, and even though Illinois and Wisconsin share the Big Ten a conference regular season title this year, if you look like I was at the odds, the gambling odds, make that a little bit closer here. Guess which team is favored, odds-wise, gambling-wise, to win the Big Ten tournament? Is it the 1-seed Illinois? No. Is it the 2-seed then, Wisconsin? No. It is the Purdue Boilermakers. The Spoilermakers are viewed as the odds-on favorite in Vegas. So you may have originally looked at it and say, I just don't want to. You're like me. Like, if you are like me, when you do pick brackets, you don't always, it feels a little cheap, easy. Are those the 2 words? Chalky. Like, anybody can just pick the favorites. There you go. I like, let's just go through it. Northwestern Nebraska, 12. Penn State, 11. Well, you go chalk the whole way. At some point, you got to pick an upset. And when you looked at it, before I looked at Vegas, I said, I think I'll pick Purdue. They're a 3. That's a nice, you're not saying you're going with the favorite Illinois. Although midway through the season, when Illinois wasn't ranked, I thought they were the best team in the Big Ten. I said as much here. But, here they are now, a top as a 1-seed. So it's always easy to pick the 1-seed. It's pretty easy picking the 2-seed. But then when you start getting down to it, anything after the top 2 seeds, and if you look historically in the Big Ten tournament, let's see. The 1 seeds won it 9 times. The 2 seeds won it 8 times. The 3 seeds only won it twice. So now you're getting down. If you don't pick a 1 or 2 seed, you're like, okay. But Purdue is the favorite in Vegas. And today, it feels like Illinois Purdue Big Ten final, but that's what Michigan needs to do, get in there. And I know I've got a few friends, I admit this today, that are Michigan State fans. And it was pointed out to me quickly by one of my state friends that Michigan State beat Maryland, Michigan State beat Wisconsin, and Michigan State beat Purdue this year. So they have beaten all those teams. That's how you feel. Like, if you're Michigan State fan, right? You're gonna do that. Let's see. There's more feedback here. LTM weighing in. If I can get his feedback up there, maybe I need to take my picture down. Get him in. Let's try. Well, maybe none of my buttons are working now. Oh, they are. Maybe it's back. Let's see. I'm working on it. My camera's not working the best, clicking through. So, let's get through this. Not surely sure. We'll go to the next topic, which is the combine that took place over the weekend. You may have heard about that. Guys running around in some kind of .com tournament that they're going to play. That's good. You don't. Maybe you should be ready to go. For any eventuality, but I wasn't going to those tournaments until I had to. So I didn't. And there it is. All right. If you're still with us here, I did want to put a couple other things up here that I had those. I had some points on the combine that I wanted to make. And let's just see if I'm here with there I am. There's the combine thoughts. Aiden Hutchinson went out and did pretty well. He ended up coming up short in the arm length department, and that could take a team. And there are teams that their analytics and how they compare things, there are going to be certain things that they're going to stay away from. Do I think that a arm length there will be the decider with everything else that Hutchinson has? No. Could it be if you were sitting there and you like Thibodeau and you were like, Kayvon Thibodeau, what's your, extremely close. These guys are both great prospects. And could that be a decider? It's not like Thibodeau doesn't have any little things that they're looking at. His motor, his love for the game. At this point, like if you're a first round pick, mostly all of the things that you can check, the boxes and everything, game tape and everything, you have all of that. And the higher you get, the more that you're going to be put under the microscope, just that little thing. And so if Thibodeau didn't have any questions at all, and he was on the field for Oregon, he'd probably go number one. But there's just a little bit about that motor, the injuries, and his love for the game. And Hutchinson with a little bit about short arms. Could it cost him the number 2 pick overall? Maybe. Was he going to fall out of the top 5? No, that's not going to happen. And Dax Hill went out there, and Hill's been looked at as a fringe first rounder. When you go out there and run a sub 4.4, teams like that, this just in, I think Dax Hill, you could see him getting himself into the first round. Ajabo, who is a first rounder, went out there and ran the 5th fastest time as a rush edge with a 4.55. He's good. And all the other things that he tested out, he'll be in there. Ajabo will be a first rounder. Hutchinson's not going to fall out of the top 5. And to me, Hill, it would not be a surprise now if he worked himself back into the, or not back into, if he just ended up going as a first round pick. But I think you can safely, if you're a Daxton Hill fan, if you're a Michigan fan, if you're watching this, you probably are. I think we can safely say that the Dax is going to be picked in the first 2 rounds, and with an outside chance of being a first round pick. So congratulations. He had a good combine, and Ajabo and Hutchinson. There's always going to be something, things come up. Those guys should be strutting across the stage. Hutchinson pretty quick, real quick, and Ajabo at some point. So that's good. That's exciting for those guys, exciting for Michigan fans as well. The other thing we need to give shout outs to from this weekend is this championship picture right here. That is the Michigan wrestling team. They've been wrestling for 100 years, and Michigan is the Big Ten champs here. And Miles Amin, know his dad, Mike, a great family. Miles, a great wrestler. Congratulations to the entire squad there. They are the champs. So that was great to see for those guys. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. I don't know what happened. It was my end, not your end. It's me, not you. Whatever happened in the middle of that tape, we'll see what happened there, and we'll correct it. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk with you tomorrow.